Hi guys, Dusty from Discovery Lab in Tulsa, Oklahoma here for Discover at Home, a series of activities and experiments that you can perform with a parent or caregiver at home. Our activity for today is our Pipeline Challenge, where we will be learning about engineering and gravity flow pipelines. Our activity for this week is very similar to AHA's marble runs. If you've already performed that activity, you might have noticed that several different forces acted on your marble while it was in the run. If your tube was not parallel, directly flat with the floor, and if it had a little bitty tilt to it, gravity pulled it downwards. You might have also noticed some areas that had a high amount of friction. Friction occurs whenever things stick or rub, so something like glue or sandpaper would slow things down and make it harder for your ball to go. Our activity is going to be similar in that it's going to use gravity to move something. However, in this time, we're going to be using water. Gravity will be the only thing that causes our water to go downhill, just like your marbles did in the marble runs. Gravity is an attractive force between two objects. The bigger the object, the bigger the force. The Earth has a very strong attractive force that pulls everything down towards it. For instance, my ball here. Gravity pulls it downward. Similarly, whenever we store water in a water tower, we use something called positive pressure. A water tower is a very tall structure where we can store our water. Because it's up so high, it has a greater pull of gravity on it. Let me show you. If I just barely lift my ball up, it doesn't have much energy. It doesn't bounce very high. But if I hold it up here above my head, you can see it bounces a lot higher for a lot further. So we pump the water up high into our towers, so that way whenever we need the water, gravity helps push all the water down into our homes. We also use a few other scientific concepts to help it move along, such as pumps, but this is one of the main ways that we store and move water to our homes. Let's go over the materials you'll need to do this activity. First of all, you'll need some type of cup or recyclable. You could choose some plastic cups or recyclables, styrofoam cups or recyclables, or you could use paper cups or cardboard recyclables. You'll also want some sticks, popsicle sticks, tongue depressors, whatever you have. Get 8 of those. You're going to need some straws as well. If you can find straight straws and bendy straws, that'd be great. However, if you can only find one, we really need the bendy straws. 8 straws is what we're going to need. You're also going to need some water to send through our pipeline. I've dyed mine blue, so it's going to be easy for you guys to see. You'll need some tape and scissors as well. If you'd like to add an extra challenge to this activity, you can get a protractor, which is going to help us measure the angles of our pipelines. Let's get started. Some of you guys may be asking, what is a pipeline? A pipeline is a long series of pipes or tubes that can go underground or above ground to transport fluids like gas or water. Pipelines can be used to transport a variety of different fluids. However, sometimes these fluids can be hazardous. For instance, crude oil, sewage. These are some things that we definitely don't want spilling out and getting all over the place. That's why it's very important for pipeline engineers to make certain their pipelines work well and are leak-free. The way that these fluids move these pipelines is through a variety of means. One way is gravity, because when we start up really, really high, the fluids have the pull of gravity to pull them downhill. That's why we generally store things higher up, so that way gravity helps pull them down. We can also supplement this with pumps or other ways to increase the pressure and push it on down the pipeway. Our challenge for you for this activity is to be able to get your fluid, water, to move from point A to point B. You can choose whichever one you want for those. If you want to say that point A is on top of the table and point B is a chair over there, that's okay. If you want to say point A is exactly 3 feet away from point B, that's fine as well. For mine, I'm going to say that point A is this side of the table and point B is this side of the table. If you'd like an extra challenge, you can also challenge yourself to put 2 bends in your pipeline. So instead of it going a straight slant, make it kind of crooked in a few spots. I'm going to challenge you guys to do 2 bends, one of which is a 90-degree angle or a straight right angle. The other is a 45-degree angle, a little bit narrower. It might help you guys to draw your design before you start building. Whenever you're drawing, make certain you remember we want to use as much gravity as possible. So point A, the beginning, should definitely be the tallest part of it. so that way it has the strongest pull of gravity. Kind of like riding a roller coaster. That first bit, getting all the way up to the top of the first hill, is so slow, but once you get to the top and they let you go and gravity takes hold, that's when it gets really fast and fun. So don't forget that when you're designing your pipelines. I'm going to give you guys a few tips and pointers before you start building, so that way you guys will have these in hand ready to help. First one, whenever you're connecting your pipelines, you might notice that if you have two different types of straw, one is slightly smaller than the other one and fits in nicely. This is a great way to make certain you get good, solid connections that won't leak very much. However, if you only have one type and it's really hard to get them to stick together, I suggest you grab the end of one, pinch it slightly, so that way it gets a little bit narrower, so then you can stick it in the other one, and you can see that's a nice, solid, tight joint right there, but it does have a little gap. So make certain all of your joints are well taped. Try and keep your tape as flat as possible. If you get a little bubble in it, that's a place that water could leak out. You definitely don't want any leaky pipelines. Second, whenever you're trying to create your tower, remember you want to have a good, stable tower. It also needs to be able to move. You don't want to have it glued or taped to the table because you might need to move it to a different area. I like to stack my cups up in such a way that they alternate. You can see that if I go one upside down, one right side up, I get a nice stable tower that then I can tape, and it's going to let me build my pipeline up nice and high. If you guys want to pass a pipeline through an area, you might want to poke a hole in it. I'm going to do mine just over the top so you can really see my pipelines. Those are some of my hints to help you guys out. So, you guys can see that I have made my pipeline completely modular. In other words, I can pick it up and I can move it to a different area. Nothing is taped down to the table or stuck down. You'll also notice that I've used my popsicle sticks to make supports, so that way my entire pipeline doesn't have to carry its own weight. I've chosen a few different areas all the way down my pipeline. I probably could have put another one right in here if I wanted to, but you want to make certain that your pipeline doesn't sag or bend in any areas. I've also used a popsicle stick to make certain that my angles stay the same. You might have trouble keeping things at a particular angle or at a particular sort of canter. If you have trouble with that, feel free to use your popsicle sticks to brace or hold it down. I've also made sure to tape everything solidly so nothing comes apart accidentally. My joints are all taped. Each part of my pipeline is taped to supports that it's on so it doesn't roll or kind of fall apart for. I'm trying to test my pipeline and see if I completed those challenges. I'm going to test and see if I got those angles right first. So, I think this is my 45-degree angle. If I hold my protractor up, it's about 43. Not quite a perfect 45, but I think close enough. Next, I'm going to test and see if I've got my 90-degree angle right here. So I'm going to measure this guy. It's a little bit closer to 100, but still, I've got him pretty close to 90 right there. So let's go ahead and see if it's watertight. Let's see if my water will flow all the way down my pipeline from point A to point B. So I'm going to use a pipette. If you have an eyedropper or if you have any other type of small tool to help you get just a few drops in at a time, you don't want to completely pour it down here because what happens is at the very beginning, the water doesn't want to go down as easily. Once it starts flowing, it's a bit easier, but those first couple drops are sometimes hard to get started. So get a couple of drops right here, stick it in, and start adding water. Now, mine is a darker blue, and if you can kind of see over there, I can see on my yellow straw that's actually started going through, and I can see in a few of these other ones, I can see the darker color rolling through. So I can tell it's made it to about this point. It hasn't quite made it here, I don't think. Oh, there it is right there. Oh, I see it's coming out here to the pink. Let's see a few more drops. And there we go. So you can see that my water made it the whole way. I'm going to check and make sure I don't have any leaks. I don't notice anything leaking. Looks like I got it pretty tight, but let's double check and put another squirt of water through. And there we go. I think the only leak was from me dropping it out of the pipette, but I think that that is a successful pipeline. Now, What do you guys think? How did yours turn out? What are some activities that you could do to help expand this? What if you and a friend built a couple and then tried to join them together? What if you tried to start someplace crazy like the kitchen and then make it all the way outside? What if you did this even bigger with maybe a water hose or something outside? Hopefully you guys enjoyed this activity and hopefully you had fun doing our pipeline engineering challenge. And thanks for hanging out with us.